when we talk about EI theories or models, they are basically based on either mental ability or competencies, skills and competencies, or traits. So these are the three divisions of the model, right? Mental ability, talent, skills and competencies, and traits. Daniel Goleman model is called as a mixed model. So there are traits also, there are competencies also, and there are some abilities also. So they have designed a model with the 4 steps. The first step is perceiving emotions. When we talk about perceiving emotions, we talk about not only understanding the facial expressions like exercise, what we have done day before yesterday on happy, sad, and some combined compound emotions. They also talk about, are you in a position to identify deceptive and dishonest emotional expressions? Because like someone was saying in yesterday's group discussion, that that particular facial expression is a bit mischievous. And it was a fact, because that particular sample was knowing that there is an exercise going on, and because of that some kind of mischievousness was there, and it was a bit confusing to say identify that particular emotion. So that is how you need to understand whether that emotional feeling is honest or that is a camouflage. So means we have to really go into the deep, and it happens, means it happens once you start thinking at direction. The human brain is such that it will wire differently, it will develop that competency provided you are thinking in that direction. Then of course that discrimination of power of whether the you are perceiving emotion accurately or not. Then also relating emotions with the context and culture, very important. You can, means for example, if I show you the photo, means for example you have already taken the EI test, and this was the reason why I asked you to take that EI test prior to this, so that you can relate to few of the questions. Now if you remember, there were questions wherein the photographs were shown, that is in lift there were girls and boys, and names were given, and it was asked, that is okay, by seeing the picture you have to identify what emotion or what that person is feeling. Now without knowing the context you cannot imagine, right? So always you, means you cannot judge the people without knowing the background. So this is the lesson from that particular question. So generally we see the facial expression, we say okay, this person is sad, or this person is happy, right? Or this person has some specific emotion. But why you cannot conclude? Because you don't know the situation, you don't know the context, you don't know the culture. For example, a American person will show a very exaggerated, happy and joyous mood when that particular person meet you, but he may not mean that. That is how the culture of America is there, showing excessive emotions or showing excessive freeness or happiness. But if you go to the Japan, you will find even if that person is greeting you, the greeting is 90% humbleness and 10% some kind of other emotions. So you need to understand the culture. So the culture and context are extremely important factors when you will perceive emotion. Then we go to the using the emotion. Now, okay, sorry. Okay, so in using the emotion, now if you see the model, first is perceiving, then it is not understanding, then it is using, right? Because generally you might think that is okay, first I have to understand, then I have to use emotion. No, First, you need to think about utilizing that particular perception. Once you think that is okay, I want to utilize this particular knowledge, right, for some mutual benefit, then only your brain will focus on understanding. Otherwise, brain will not understand. Why? Because this particular process is not a very, say, lengthy process. This particular process happens very quickly. So if your brain has to support you in understanding the emotion, first the brain has to get convinced that you have to use the emotion. Yeah, just one second. It's sorry. Yeah. So when I say using emotion means you have to leverage the analysis of the mood of that particular person. You have to first analyze the mood and you need to utilize that particular mood of that particular person. This is not manipulation, right? You are getting attuned with the emotional state and you are utilizing that person's mood. Why I'm saying mood? Because mood is more long term, means emotion is the short term. So I am now going for a mood. You can utilize that particular mood, right? So you need to also, you should be in a position, this is for the other person but it is about yourself also. So you should be in a position to generate emotion to aid your judgment and interaction. Means, for example, if the situation demands you need to be happy but you are not feeling happy prior to that particular situation. So what you have to do during that particular situation, you should inculcate that particular happiness feeling, right? So this is how you use the knowledge of emotions. Why? Because your physiology and emotions are directly connected. You will get that particular emotion when the brain will release chemical. When brain will release chemical, when you will remember some happy instance of your life. So for example, means I'm not talking about acting here, right? I'm talking about a situation wherein you have to now feel joyous, but you are not feeling joyous, right? Now, how you will utilize the wisdom of emotional intelligence? You will say, okay, right now, my emotion or the feeling or the mood need to be of a happy person. So, what can I do? So, can I remember some great happy energetic instance from my life? So once the brain gets that particular signal that you are remembering that, what brain is going to do? Brain is going to release that particular chemical and then it will assist you in coming to that particular mood. So this is about using the knowledge about emotions. Stage number two. Stage number three, once you are in a position to use the knowledge, use the wisdom, then you will be in a much better position to understand emotion, right? So you will not only understand the person, understand the current emotion, but you will be in a position to understand what will be the emotion of that person after this event. If I say this, how that person will feel, right? So you will be in a position to extrapolate that particular emotional understanding. You will also in a position to understand the transition of emotions, because there is a one emotion, after that the emotion will change. So you will understand not only the emotion but also transition of the emotion. Now I am talking about the real emotional intelligence here, right? So this is a very in-depth model, right? So this is not a generic model. Means, for example, in a soft skills, time management is a generic soft skill, right? So means you will get 1,000 trainers who will basically who can telephone time. Means I'm not demeaning time management. Time management is very vital, very critical competency, right? But it is a generic competency. Now we are talking about very specific competencies of emotional intelligence. So the Meyer and Salovey model talks about in-depth emotional intelligence competencies. And once you are in a position to understand the emotions, their impact on other people, and how emotions are linked to the relationship, right? Means you are understanding. Only if you understand the emotions, even if you are not acting on them, 50% of work is done. And of course, if you will manage them, if you will act them, 100% work is done. So after understanding comes the phase of managing. So how you will manage your emotion, your and other person's emotions, because emotional intelligence is not only about you, it is about you and society, you and people around you. So how you will promote emotional, intellectual and personal growth for you and people around you. So the emotional intelligence competency is not only for self, it is for the self and people around you. So emotional intelligence people create that particular vibrations, right? Which inculcate emotional intelligence in a society, and it results in a social well-being. So this is the power of emotional intelligence. And why? Because emotions are contagious. Our brain, our neurons, right? So we all have inherent ability of telepathy, inherent ability, but it is not developed. Means it is already there, but it is basically covered with many layers. And we may have some faint idea of 1% telepathy. Means some person is remembering you, and at the same time, you also remember that particular person. Many times it might have happened to you. So that brain to brain connection, right? That the process of the neurons is already proven in quantum physics, right? So it is not only emotional intelligence theory. I'm talking about physics, biology, and the science. So the science says that, for example, there were many, research and case studies done. So the people were at the far end of the means in two separate buildings, but that people, their emotions were getting attuned. Means they are close people, right? They are thinking about each other, and the person who is feeling X emotion, after some time the other person is also feeling similar X emotion. So this is the brain power. So one emotional intelligent person in team can develop the emotional intelligence of the other people. So this is the power of emotional intelligence. So when we talk about the ability model, why it is a ability model? Because all these four pointers, perceiving emotions, using emotions, don't means uh, take this word wrong, using, right? So if you don't like word using, you can think about utilizing, because utilizing may have more positive meaning. But the idea is utilizing that particular wisdom, giving that signal to the brain, that is, this is an important information and I want to utilize this particular information. Then brain will start helping you in understanding the emotion. In the understanding emotion, labeling the emotion is the crux. What exercise day before yesterday we have done. Unless you label the emotion, you cannot move ahead. Okay, maybe to start with, in 50% of the cases, your labeling will be right. In 50% of the cases, your labeling may not be right. No problem. But once you start thinking in that direction, once you start applying your mind on labeling the emotion, automatically that competency will increase. Do you know why? Because your brain already has that particular knowledge, but it is a hidden knowledge, right? So it is like you are giving exercise to the brain. Automatically the brain will develop emotional muscle. Why? Because the human being brain already has emotional brain inside from your birth, right? But you are not exploiting the full potential of the brain. So understanding emotions for human being is a natural process. Maybe for some animals, again, I'm saying some animals, it may not be that natural. But animals also has fantastic emotional intelligence. They understand emotions of each other very well. And then the human being is a much more evolved species. So can you imagine that we already have that particular wisdom of understanding emotions, but only thing we are ignoring that. Means, for example, means if there is some kind of bodybuilder and he stops doing exercise, what will happen? His muscles will fade away. Like that has happened with us. So we already have this particular emotional brain, but we do not think in that particular direction. We are after cognitive evaluation only. We are only doing analysis on paper, right? We are seeing this number, that situation, this goal, that goal. So more cognitive processes, of course, emotional brain is working, right? But you are not aware. You are feeling emotional, you are acting emotional, but you are not aware. That is the problem is not that the brain is not functioning. Brain is functioning fully, but because it is not doing work with the awareness, it is not helping you. So this understanding, this using is first you giving signal to the brain, that is, I would like to utilize this particular emotion. Then you understand the emotion, then you label the emotion, then you interpret the emotion. 50% or more than 50% of work is done only with the labeling. Now you manage the emotion, right? So this is the ability model. So you develop ability, you develop this talent, is what Mayer and Salovey model is all about. Now I go to a Baron model. Baron was a psychologist and he developed this particular model for the psychometric assessment to start with. And the Baron model is also in very depth, right? So the Baron model, so you already seen in the video. So it has the 5 segments, and within that 5 segment, total 15 competencies are there. So the self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal, decision making, and stress management are the 5 competencies. Within that competencies, 5 into 3 is basically 15 sub competencies, is what this model talks about. And this particular test of, and I think from the Darwin, right? So we always know that the human beings, means our transition from the, say, means whether it was the Darwin theory is right or wrong, I don't know, but the transition from the animal species to the human being, right, so is mostly based on our intellectual capabilities. And for your information, our brain is 90% emotional brain and only 10% cognitive brain, right? So our real power of human beings is into the emotional brain, is into the emotional aspect. Uh, that is the evolution of the brain, but we are not utilizing that powerfully. So these are the 15 competencies what this particular test checks. So self-regard, right? I'm not going to read it. I'm just giving you a minute to go through this particular slide. Just show me the thumb sign to go ahead once you complete the reading. So these competencies are very thoroughly research competencies. These are the 15 competencies on which emotional intelligence test has been designed, and this is one of the world-class emotional intelligence tests in practice. But our idea is not the test. Our idea is to understand what competencies are necessary for us to develop ourselves into high emotional intelligence person.
Self-awareness is the ability to understand your emotions as well as recognize their impact on relationships and performance. Social awareness is the ability to identify emotions in others and to understand their perspective and take an interest in their concerns. Self-management, controlling your emotions and using your awareness of them to stay flexible and act positively. Social skills and relationship management, your ability to use your awareness of your own emotions, together with your understanding of the emotions of others, to manage interactions successfully.
So these particular competencies of Daniel Goleman model, right? So the self-awareness is emotional self-awareness. Again, a very simplistic way. We are going to go into the much more depth. Self-management is, of course, self-control, adaptability, which is essential in today's life. You need to adapt to the changing situations. You need to adapt to ambiguity, VUCA world. Achievement orientation, because the achievement orientation will motivate you, because the motivation is also part of the self-management, right? And positive outlook, positive psychology, right? Because if you think positive, so the positive doesn't mean you are not realistic. Within the reality, you have to be positive. Within the reality, you have to be optimistic. So this is the positive outlook we are talking about, right? Then self-awareness. Sorry, in social awareness, of course, the empathy is the core to the social awareness. And like Smita has said, the empathy can be enhanced by attention, by listening. And of course, we have a separate session on that. And then the organizational awareness, right? Because especially we are professional people. So what is your awareness is not only related to the people, it is about the organization. So what are my organization values? What is my organization culture? And how can I respond to that particular culture? How I can adapt to that particular culture? And then relationship management, right? Your influence skills, your conflict management skills. Again, we are going to go into the depth of the conflict management as well. Inspirational leadership, because now the world is moving towards servant leadership. Now the idea of that visionary leader or some kind of charismatic leader, right? Means I'm not saying it is not there, but the importance of that is going down. Why? Because now the economy is a knowledge economy. What I know, you already know, right? I'm not knowing anything more than you. And even if I am knowing more than you at this point in time, if you decide in few months, you can know more than me. Why? Because the knowledge is at fingertips. You don't have to go to Himalaya to search the knowledge, right? So whatever knowledge is accessible to me, it is accessible to you. So now it is not about it is about the servant leadership wherein you support the team to flourish. The leader job is different. Leader job is not command and control. Leader job is support. Leader job is to serve, right? But for that, of course, the team need to have some basic competencies. Otherwise, you cannot do it, right? So first, the leader, the emotional intelligent leader, first take care of the development of the team competencies and then take a role of a servant leader. So this is the process of emotional intelligence leadership. Of course, as a coach and mentor, right? A emotionally intelligent person can become a fantastic coach and mentor and flourish the teamwork within the organization, which we are going to see 5 dysfunctions of a team, Patrick Leone model.